Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here. Hope you're all having a pleasant weekend. Happy Halloween and all of that stuff. Hope you had a good one. So today I wanted to go and do a little throwback to Battlefield 2142. But the reason I wanted to go and just check it out here is just to see what ideas DICE had for Battlefield then, with this being a futuristic game, and to see if any of these ideas could be making it into Battlefield 6. So for me personally, this was the second Battlefield game that I ever played. I started with Battlefield 2, which was of course the first sort of proper modern Battlefield title in 2005, and then Battlefield 2142 came out the following year in 2006. So it was essentially, you know, very alike Battlefield 2, but with a more futuristic theme to it. So in this Battlefield you've got things like hover tanks that can actually strafe side to side, and they were of course iconically reimagined in Battlefield 4's Final Stand DLC. Now you can still play this game, obviously, as you see me doing here. You can go and download it on Origin, but you will need to give it some extensive modding. There is a YouTube video out there that explains exactly how to do this and what you have to install, so if you do own the game and you're interested in playing it, you can play it. But that being said, there are only really enough players online at a single time to fill one full server, if that, so it's not really something you're going to be able to play on the daily. Now, a lot of this stuff, I will admit, I had completely forgotten about, but for example, it turns out that this game, I think, is the first game that actually has active protection for tanks, and also for the walkers that you're going to see later on in this video here, and that, of course, has made it into Battlefield 4. In this game, it's more of a protective shield, a futuristic looking shield that's around your vehicle, and I mean, let's face it, in Battlefield 4, that's pretty much how it acts. Your tank glows green, you get, you know, the flashy explosions of the incoming projectiles exploding around you, but active protection, you know, is a thing in reality where tanks and other vehicles and that system will spit out small explosives to destroy incoming missiles and other explosive projectiles and whatnot. But in Battlefield 4, it's more just like a magic shield, really. So I'm playing around here in the main battle tank, as it were. Like I said before, this game does have hover tanks. It also has the regular sort of tank that we all know and love. And there are a couple of things that I actually really like in the tank. I mean, first of all, just let me say, you guys are going to be thinking, oh my god, this thing is absolutely OP. The secondary gunner seat here is just a monster. You can just hop in there and gun down absolutely everybody. This is literally the first round I'm playing. I haven't played this game since it came out, I don't believe. And I pretty much go on like a 42-5 game here, so it went pretty well for my first game, and it's mainly due to the fact that the vehicles are just so damn powerful here. You know, it's funny hearing people complain about them in Battlefield 3 and 4, but they are so much less protected and less powerful in those games than they were back in the olden days. Now, one cool mechanic that I also noticed they had here is actually the seat switching. So, you know, as normally, you can switch to the gunner seat if you happen to be in the main seat, but there is a system in place where if you are the person who actually first got into the tank and you're in the driver's seat, somebody hops in the gunner seat and you hit the seat switch button, you can actually swap places with them without either of you having to get out of the tank. And that way, if you decide to go and do a bit of gunning, you know, the guy who was in the gunning seat is going to be able to drive the tank. And the best thing about this is, as soon as you hit the seat switch button again, you'll just switch back to the driver's seat and he'll end up being in the gunner's seat, right? So you don't lose that gunner seat. I think that's one of the most annoying things in some of the more recent Battlefield games is, you know, to jump into a tank, have somebody in the gunner seat, you jump out to repair, he then jumps into the driver's seat and essentially just steals the vehicle that you originally spawned into. You know, in 2142, I don't exactly know how it works, but it seems like there's some sort of a priority system going on where if you were the original driver of the tank, you have first dibs on who's going to seat switch. You know, if you do decide to seat switch, the other guy's going to get to drive for a little while, but you can always switch back whenever you want. And I thought that's like a really cool idea. I would love to see that in the next Battlefield game, assuming of course that we do have instant seat switching and not the crappy animations that they've put into Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. Not saying that they look bad or anything or they're not realistic. In my opinion, they just don't really do the gameplay any favours. So moving on here, we've got some footage of the walkers in this game, or the mechs, whatever you want to really class them as. They're super fun, and in my opinion, this was one of the most imaginative vehicles in a Battlefield franchise. We haven't really seen these come back since 2142, and I would have loved to see these in Final Stand in Battlefield 4 instead of the hover tanks, because honestly the hover tanks were never really like that interesting of a vehicle. But I mean, just how cool is it to be stomping around in a massive mech here? And there is also friendly fire in this game. You can kill all of your teammates, so you have to be super careful that you don't stomp on any of them with your massive mech legs. So you've got two seats in this vehicle. You've got the piloting seat, or the driver's seat rather, I should say, that I'm in at the moment, and those have these sort of twin Gatling guns here that are just amazing for taking out infantry. And then you've also got a gunning seat with a really powerful cannon there as well that I'll show you guys in a little minute. But one of the most interesting things about this vehicle is it sort of feels like being in a tank, but at the same time you've got a different perspective. If you guys have driven many cars before, it's kind of like the difference between driving a regular car and then getting into an SUV and having that slightly higher perspective. It just changes everything, you know. You can see a little bit more down onto the battlefield, you can see over walls, you can hit targets over walls, whereas, you know, in a main battle tank and you're hugging the ground, you can't really hit anything unless you have a clear line of sight to it. Also, because of the way the Walker legs move, you've got this left and right motion all of the time, so it kind of makes aiming more difficult. You have to really stop and aim if you want to be a perfect shot. And this thing can actually walk over small obstacles, so we all know how frustrating it can be in the main battle tanks, getting stuck on like those small boxes down there, for example. You would have gotten stuck on those, no chance of getting through there. But in this thing you can just walk right over them, and it's just really refreshing. Even though this is such an old game, I was loving playing in this thing, and honestly, I would love to see it come back in a new Battlefield game. That being said, though, of course, it is a futuristic thing. It's not really going to fit into a modern setting as such. This thing also has EMP mines in the secondary gunner seat. EMP mines were a big feature of Battlefield 2142, and that was really like the disable mechanic of the game. In newer Battlefield games, you get disabled when you take a tank shell to your helicopter, or some large amount of damage, maybe a TV missile, something like that. In this game, you only got disabled if you got hit by an EMP mine. As you can see here, when I'm flying around in the sort of flying vehicle they have in this game, I don't really know what this is called. It's kind of like a cross between a helicopter and a jet. But as soon as you get hit by an EMP mine, you just float out of the sky, and you're done for, man. That's you going down. So I'm not sure I would have been quite as successful a pilot in this game as I am in Battlefield 4. Now, one thing that was in this game and previous Battlefield titles like Battlefield 2, 1942, etc. is team damage. Yes, you can damage your teammates. You can see here I did this, and I promise it was only for testing purposes. I promise. It might have been a little bit fun, but I went and knifed this guy here and just tried out the team killing to see if it worked, and it turns out that when you kill somebody, you actually lose some of your score, resulting in less points for your team and less experience. But I think in our current day and age, those kind of punishments are not going to stop the trolls from just constantly team killing the same guy that they hate on their team again and again. So I can definitely understand why they did away with team killing in Battlefield. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it there for today. Thought this would just be an interesting one to throw up there. Take a little trip down memory lane and see what kind of things Battlefield 2142 introduced to the Battlefield franchise, and, you know, whether any of these things could be brought back in the new Battlefield game. Like I say, you know, I'm not hoping per se for a futuristic Battlefield game, and I think that as far as themes go, that is probably the theme that the least amount of people want to see. From what I hear, most people want either a modern setting or near-modern setting, or they want something like Vietnam, or even some of them want another World War II game. Nobody really ever mentions Battlefield 2142, so I thought I'd go and show it some love. But that being said, there's no reason that some of these features can't be brought over to a modern game and just sort of adapted, the same way they did with the active protection system that I mentioned earlier. Or, you know, alternatively, if they do go down the sort of premium route with the expansion packs, there's no reason they can't have maybe just one futuristic themed expansion pack like they did for BF4 with the Final Stand expansion, and then they could bring out just an entirely new vehicle like the Walkers, for example. One of the things that wasn't that impressive in Battlefield 4 is that every expansion pack we got, we had new vehicles, new maps, and new weapons, but the vehicles were kind of underwhelming. It was always just some sort of transportation vehicle. In Naval Strike, we got the hovercraft. In Final Stand, I think it was, we got the snowmobiles, and whilst they were kind of fun, at the end of the day, they were just transportation vehicles. They didn't have any weapons on them whatsoever. I guess we did get the hover tank, but essentially that's just a vehicle that's already in the game. It's just like another tank. I think the reason they obviously did this is because they didn't want to upset that fragile rock, paper, scissors balance between all of the different vehicles. But I don't know, maybe just, for one expansion, guys? Maybe Mech Walkers? Pretty please? Go and hit that like button down below, guys, if you enjoyed the video. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.